What is going on, everybody? I go by the name of Curry, and I want to thank you guys for joining me here today on SneakerPhetish. If you've been under a rock, you may not have realized that there was a follow-up to a sneaker that we've already discussed on this channel before. That sneaker, of course, was the Jesus shoes, the controversial sneaker that came out in 2019 by a company based out of Brooklyn called MSCHF. Now, MSCHF is known for being a controversial artist, doing a lot of different things when it comes to social media, breaking social norms, even doing something called Death of the Influencer, where they allowed people to simply text in a photo and they would post it to their Instagram page of over 3 or some odd million Instagram followers, simply because they hated the idea of influencers and all of the pretentiousness that goes into being a content creator or an influencer out here. So they've already been known to kind of push the envelope in a lot of different ways, and the Jesus shoes definitely made a lot of different headlines. Now, I won't belabor that shoe in particular because today we're talking about the sneaker that they recently came out with in collaboration with Lil Nas X, the Satan shoes. Obviously, the balance between good and evil is kind of the thing that's going on here, and it happened right in conjunction with Lil Nas X's new video that's called Call Me By My Name or Call Me Montero, which is actually Lil Nas X's actual first name, in case you didn't know. Now, when news first broke that Nike was filing suit against MSCHF for trademark infringement, trademark dilution, and all these other things, I'll be honest with you guys, I thought that it was a complete fake. There was no way in my logical brain that I thought that Nike was going to sue MSCHF because I felt that the case would be frivolous. But after being told by Brandon Dunn from Complex that I didn't know what I was talking about, and simply because I didn't know how to find things on the internet doesn't mean that they didn't exist, I did a little bit of digging, and come to find out later on that day, news did come out in all the databases that the suit was actually filed against MSCHF from Nike. Well, after realizing that it actually was a case, even though I thought that it was ridiculous, of course I did my due diligence to find every single case filing and response and the eventual order, in addition to re-examining the Warren Lotus case from Nike as well. And today, we're not gonna go through all of this in super long detail because you guys pretty much know what's going on in this case, but I do wanna go over the high points, and I also wanna talk about why Nike may or may not win this case. All right, guys, now first things first here, we're gonna start, this is the actual complaint itself. Well, this is actually the cover sheet here, so we'll get past that. And we'll also get past the service. But this right here is the actual case itself, the complaint, the full complaint against MSCHF. Let's break down what the actual claims are that MSCHF broke the law against. Of course, at the beginning of the case, it gives us a whole lot of blah, blah about how basically Nike established everything, about how the sneakers look like they're a Nike shoe, but they weren't a Nike shoe. And of course, we all know that's what the problem with this case was, is that Nike is claiming that people were actually confused because there were people on the internet, such as the screenshots that you see here, that did not know whether or not this was actually a Nike sneaker, an authorized actual Nike release like that they were going to come out with on the Nike website. But as you guys may or may not know, the only way that you were able to get this $1,000 sneaker was through the MSCHF website, or unless you were a big creator on YouTube like a Sneaker Life that was actually able to get your pair for free and make a video on it. I'm not that poppin'. I also didn't buy the shoe. Count number 1 is trademark infringement. Now, this says that MSCHF knowingly used and continues to use in commerce without Nike's permission or authorization Nike's asserted marks and or confusingly similar marks in connection with the products manufactured, advertised, promoted, and sold in the United States, including the Satan shoe. Now, what's interesting to me is that they said including the Satan shoes because the only other sneaker that MSCHF has made up to this point with Nike's marks on it were the Jesus shoes, which were not really mentioned in this case. And on top of that, Nike never filed suit over. Nike contradicts themselves a lot in this case. For instance, one of the claims that they make is that because of the sole of the sneaker, which you guys know contains 60 cc's of red dye and 1 drop of human blood, which is just weird in and of itself, but because of that, because of the way that they manipulated the sole of the shoe, it could cause potential damage. Now, the sole of the Jesus shoes also contains 60 cc's of holy water from the River Jordan. However, again, Nike never filed suit on that. So is the sole dangerous or is it not dangerous? Maybe Nike felt like this sole was a little bit more dangerous because of the element of human blood, but at the same time, I don't know, that's a weak argument to me. So they go on to say Nike has no control over the nature and quality of the Satan shoes being offered by MSCHF, and Nike's reputation and goodwill will be damaged, and the value of Nike's marks jeopardized by MSCHF's continued use of the asserted marks and confusingly similar marks. They say because of this, any defects, objections, or faults found with MSCHF Satan shoes will negatively reflect upon and injure the reputation that Nike has established. So what Nike is saying here is that they can't guarantee the quality of the shoe because the sneaker has now been manipulated by MSCHF. Let's stick a pin in that because we're going to get back to that when it comes to customizing sneakers as a whole in just a moment. Count number 2, false designation of origin. Now, this says that Nike marks are registered and entitled to protection under federal and common law. Now, this says that MSCHF's unauthorized use of Nike's marks or confusingly similar marks constitutes a false designation of origin that is likely to cause consumer confusion, mistake, or deception as to the origin, sponsorship, or approval of MSCHF and or MSCHF Satan shoes. Stick a pin right there. In the Warren Lotus case, this is what I have right here. Nike actually pretty much charged Warren Lotus with the exact same charges that they're charging MSCHF with, and that's part of my problem here. They're charging them with trademark infringement, trademark dilution, false designation of origin, so on and so forth. So the fact that they're actually suing the person that literally made fake sneakers with the same charges that they're suing somebody who simply customized a sneaker, let me know right there that this is nothing more than a big PR move in order to make sure that Nike's brand is protected without actually infringing on the First Amendment right, which is freedom of religion and freedom of speech. Now, let's go on. As I mentioned, trademark dilution is count number 3. Common law trademark infringement and unfair competition is trademark number 4, and on and on and on. They wanted money from MSCHF. They wanted their profits. They wanted like triple their profits or something crazy like that. They want all these things. Basically, they slapped together the exact same lawsuit that they put together for Warren Lotus. But to my previous point, Warren Lotus was actually making fake sneakers. He wasn't actually customizing authentic sneakers. At the end of the day, Nike's problem with this case is that they didn't want to be associated with Satanism or things that had to do with the pentagram on the shoe or all of those really weird and dark things that were put on the sneaker. If this sneaker were a little bit more positive and put Nike in a more positive light, they don't have any problem with that at all. If somebody customizes a sneaker and it says Nike is the greatest company in the world, I guarantee you Nike is not going to sue them. The first response comes from the lawyer on behalf of MSCHF. If you guys may or may not know, MSCHF is not some small rinky-dink company. MSCHF's got money. They just closed a round of funding for their company where the company now has, I believe, around $11 million. So they've got enough money to fight Nike on this thing. Now, the thing that I found very interesting about the response, it's a very short response. It's only a couple of pages long, but just like how Nike included screenshots of people not knowing whether or not the Satan shoe was an actual Nike shoe, MSCHF actually included screenshots from when the Jesus shoe came out. And people were saying things like, it's a shame that Nike would make this sneaker that's dubbed the Jesus shoe. How dare you, Nike? This is sacrilegious, and on and on and on. There were a lot of people, if you guys may or may not remember, that were also tweeting Nike because they thought that the Jesus shoe was an actual Nike sneaker. Nike had no problem with that. They didn't file suit against that. So now Nike is filing suit against something that has clearly happened in the past before that they didn't do anything about, which further makes it seem like this is a personal attack based on expression of a religious type of imagery and Lil Nas X. Now, this is a slippery slope because, of course, in these sensitive times surrounding the LGBTQ community, doing things that may seem like you're demonizing, which of course was the entire point of the Call Me By My Name song by Lil Nas X as a whole, demonizing somebody that's a large part of that community could turn out negatively as far as press for Nike. It makes Nike seem like a super conservative company that only has conservative values. Things like a man and a woman should be together, but not a man and a man or a woman and a woman, things of that nature. It's a pretty compelling argument, even though it's a couple of pages. Now, Nike then responded back to MSCHF's statement, and this is what they said. Nike actually said MSCHF's goal was to stir controversy to provoke Nike into filing a lawsuit and taking further action. Well, Nike, mission accomplished. That's exactly what you did. Now, Nike does talk a little bit about the First Amendment, which of course is what they were leaning on, and they were saying that it doesn't entitle MSCHF to sell shoes emblazoned with the swoosh mark and marketed as Nike shoes. It says where the defendant creates an expressive work, a defendant asserting the First Amendment must show, 1, that the mark has artistic relevance to the trademark, and 2, the use of the mark does not explicitly mislead as to the source of the content of the work. But again, I don't know how anybody could be misled when MSCHF's name has been all over the sneaker and Lil Nas X, when MSCHF has been the only person talking about the sneaker, when MSCHF has clearly been the only one pushing the sneaker. I don't understand how people could be misled to the source of the content of the work. Obviously, it's MSCHF. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Nike ended up making a first order. A lot of people thought this was the end of the case, but this isn't the end of the case. It's actually the beginning of the case that's going to lead into the trial. But that order was actually found in Nike's favor. So the judge over this case that's presiding actually moved for a temporary restraining order to be made against the Satan shoes. Problem is, the sneakers have already been shipped. MSCHF knew that they were probably going to get this temporary restraining order, and the judge was going to say, hey, anything you haven't shipped yet or given away yet, stop the presses and don't sell any more sneakers or don't ship any more sneakers. So MSCHF took it upon themselves before that came down to go ahead and ship out all 665 pairs of that shoe, leaving only one that will be confiscated because that one sneaker, the last one, number 666, was supposed to be raffled off via social media. So that giveaway has been canceled, but the rest of the sneakers have already been shipped out and Nike can't do anything about it pretty much. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. If you guys are familiar with court cases or law like this, the way this thing goes down is that in order for this to continue on to a trial, Nike actually has to put some money up that they call a security bond. Now, that bond is in the amount of $50,000. It says here that it's further ordered that pursuant to the Rule 65C, the plaintiff shall give security in the sum of $50,000 by April the 12th, 2021. What that means is that Nike has until April the 12th to pony up $50,000 cash that's basically going to be held in this account so that if MSCHF comes back in the trial and actually ends up winning the trial, Nike has to give MSCHF that $50,000 and possibly even more money on top of that for wrongfully accusing them of something that they didn't actually do. And MSCHF has a strong case there because, again, MSCHF and Warren Lotus are not the same. So if I were MSCHF, I might actually make note of the fact that Nike is accusing me of actually doing the things that we didn't even do here. This is an authentic sneaker. This is a real deal shoe. This is a collaboration with Lil Nas X, so on and so forth. And I would cite the Warren Lotus case saying that we're being sued for the exact same things, insinuating that the sneaker is not even an authentic and authorized sneaker because Nike said that they did not authorize the shoe. Well, Nike theoretically doesn't have to authorize the shoe once it's purchased. Now, there's a lot of other things that we can get into here, like first rule of sale, which is supposed to transfer complete ownership rights over to the person who has the thing once it's purchased. But there are certain laws that do protect against unauthorized use of that. But I digress. The point of this is that this actually got big enough that it looked bad enough on Nike that Nike actually ended up filing suit against a customizer. But what does that mean for the world of customizations? If you guys remember, a good friend of mine named Juan Wilson created a custom sneaker for me back in the day, and he used a genuine, authentic Air Jordan 1 Low, and it was called the Vintage. He did his own thing with these. He did an incredible job on the painting, on the leather swoosh, on the reverse swoosh here, on the tag. He customized the entire shoe. Nike didn't sue him for these, nor did he have to go to Nike and get approval or authorization for the sneaker. Why? Because nothing about this sneaker makes Nike look bad. So at the end of the day, the precedent that this particular case is setting here is that you can customize sneakers if you are a sneaker customizer, just as long as the way that you're customizing the sneaker doesn't piss Nike off. Nike, at the end of the day, is the end-all be-all when it comes to sneakers that you even paid your hard-earned money to own. And even if you paid your hard-earned money to own the shoe, you still don't have the right to do anything that you want to the shoe in case you make Nike look bad. Because Nike feels like they have the right to come after anybody that they want to come after simply for the fact of making them look bad. I don't know about this one, guys. I honestly feel like Nike deserves to lose this case. And I'm a fan of Nike. You guys know that. I'm not mad at Nike as a brand, but I understand that in this world of creativity, which sneakers are, I tell you guys all the time, sneakers are art. Art is meant to be interpreted different ways by different people, but more importantly than that, it's meant to be a tool of expression by artists. And that goes for the people that are wearing the shoes, that are wearing the clothing here, that are designing the clothing and the shoes, or that are customizing the clothing and the shoes. Art is meant as an expressive means to be free. Freedom is what this shoe was all about and what Juan Wilson's craft as a customizer is all about. And what Nike could potentially be doing for customizers out here is limiting their freedom. Now, this might be a golden opportunity for other brands to say, come on over to Death Row and we can take care of you. As a matter of fact, if I were Adidas, I'd come out with a blank slate sneaker and I would say, customize these however you want to. The sneaker would probably be plain white. I'd throw in some crayons or maybe some markers with it and I would say, go crazy. We want you to customize this sneaker however you want to customize it and do whatever you want to do with it. That'd actually be a pretty dope marketing play for any of these brands out here, so you're welcome. I won't even charge you for that. But at the end of the day, if Nike ends up winning this entire case, if Nike ends up having it established that they have carte blanche to do whatever they want to do, even after someone has purchased their product fair and square with their own money, like I mentioned, it could be a slippery slope for customizers because now people are going to be wondering just how creative and just how free they can be with their customizations at least when it comes to Nike products. I worry about that for customizers out here. I worry about that for content creators out here. What if I say something bad about Nike and it makes them look bad, or they don't like something that I said? Can Nike come after me at that point as a YouTuber and a content creator and say, we didn't like what you said, we want you to take your video down? Freedom of speech tends to be a thing here on YouTube, but at the end of the day, it seems like freedom of speech isn't a thing that applies to customizations. What's stopping Nike from doing something on this side of the world as well over here on YouTube? I don't know. But what I will say is that while I'm not particularly a fan of the MSCHF Satan shoes, just for my own personal reasons, I'm not mad at the shoe and the statement that it made. It brought awareness, it started a huge conversation, and it got a lot of people buzzing about something that is still pretty controversial that we're still finding our way through as a society. And honestly, I've always been the type of person where I was raised to leave everybody where they're at, especially when it comes to their personal and fundamental beliefs. I'm not mad at anybody that buys the sneaker. I'm not going to pass my judgment off on everybody that buys the shoe either. Hey, if you want to buy the sneaker for whatever reason you want to buy it, that's on you. But what I'm also hoping is that while out here outside of the brand, we're respecting one another's positions and opinions and beliefs and fundamentals and things of that nature, that the brands will also respect the fact that they already got their money. Let people do what they choose to do with their sneakers, especially if they're making it very, very clear that they don't have anything to do with the brand itself. And the product doesn't have anything to do with the brand itself. It'd be much different if MSCHF said MSCHF X Nike X Lil Nas X's Nike Air Max 97. But that's not the case here. They made it very clear what they did and what they were not doing, who they did it with and who they were not doing it with. So outside of, like I said, it just being kind of a PR move for everybody to make certain that Nike doesn't have anything to do with this, I wouldn't waste any more money on this case, but that's just me. All right, guys, that's all that I got. Now it's time for you guys to sound off down in the comments and let me know what you guys think about customized shoes as a whole. If you're a customizer, let me know how this case makes you feel, or about the MSCHF and Lil Nas X and Nike case as a whole, or the Satan shoes as a whole. Did you get yourself a pair, or did you not give yourself a pair? Why or why not? Sound off down below. Let me know. Of course, write it down in the comments and make sure that you click on that subscribe button so we can welcome you into the Sneaker Fetish family to make sure you don't miss out on any more heat that comes through like these, because I guarantee you I had a lot more heat on the way. As always, I want to thank you guys for joining me here today on Sneaker Fetish, taking a look at these with me and this with me, talking to me, chopping it up with me for a couple of minutes. I go by the name of Kari. This is the customized Air Jordan 1 Low Vintage by Juan Wilson, and this is the lawsuit between Nike and MSCHF Product Studio. And until next time, I'm out.